So that's going to be the topic of my next week's Parsha Shir.
All right, so let's go there. Let's talk about, you got to do your Parsha.
Because that's the whole the Baal Turim brings down is that the word truma, right? Which we won't talk about right now. Just point, has the word Torah inside of it. Truma is the Torah with the mem. Like the truma is an allusion to the Torah, which was given over 40 days and 40 nights, right? So that's his kesher between Parshas Mishpatim and Parshas Truma. But we'll see, B'ezras Hashem, it's actually symbolic of two levels of Torah. There's the external Torah, external reality of Torah, and there's the actual panemius of Torah itself, which is the heart of Torah, so to speak, the ruach of Torah. And that's inside. And that's what transforms, let's say, tzedakah, charity into tzedakah. Right? Charity is what you can give, even if you think you're giving tzedakah, but it's basically, there's a certain heart that goes along with it. It's not just the mitzvah you're doing by giving the charity, but it's also the idea of what the emotions and the connections supposed to go along with it. And that's basically what Akash Baruch Hu is bringing. That's what it says that in the end, I will give you, up until now we've had a heart of stone. And Akash Baruch Hu is going to give us back a heart of flesh one day. What is that symbolic of? It's symbolic of the fact that basically we don't connect to what the events of history the proper way. They don't impact us the way they should impact us. And likewise, we don't impact them the way we should impact them. Today, I just had an example where I was on the bus coming, it's off topic tonight, but what difference does it make? I was on the bus and coming on the one bus, came down by Kikar Shabbat, and I was in a rush to catch my bus back to Telstone, and I had to make another stop or two before I did that, so I'm on a tight schedule. I'm running schedule right now, but the bus begins to slow down as it turns the corner onto Malchi Yisrael, and there's an ambulance there blocking part of our road because he left his door open, and I think to myself, couldn't he just move a little to the side more, and at least close his doors, because the traffic's going to get stuck and all that, and I'll lose my chance to do it. There's an ambulance here. There's all tons of people standing around, so whatever just happened. And, it's probably somewhat serious. And it's not even occurring to me at this point in time. I'm just so stuck in my mind about getting to my next, where I got to go. And then as we drove by, I couldn't even see the person that it happened to. But I figured someone must have got hit by a car, because people always cross the road back and forth, and cars, go around this, because it's always a dangerous thing over there. And I just figured, whatever, someone probably got, but as we drove by, I couldn't see the person, but I saw a pool of blood, on the road, and immediately it's just like boom, just like my whole world just and I'm like, what am I doing? What am I talking? What do I care? Wait a minute, what is it? This someone got hurt, someone's injured over here. I'm worried about my bus. I'm worried about getting my next stop over here. The first thing I should have done is at the ambulance to start taking to Hillel. Just in case someone got, my whole mind should have been involved. That's the first thing should have hit me. And I'm worried about my schedule. And this ambulance is stuck at, even it wasn't so serious, but still they called an ambulance. Someone's probably in the ground, and someone's probably hurt. Their life has changed. They were, but to go shopping for something. And their whole life has changed all of a sudden. Maybe it's changed even for the rest of their life. Who knows? But it's and I was just so amazed how wrapped up you can get in your own personal reality that you can actually exclude. And then I understood for the first time what this Gemara means. It's a Pelitic Gemara. Always bothered. It's a Gemara in Yuma, right? Talking about how...
Where is it on?
It's in Yuma. It's towards the Ayins, I think. Somewhere towards the Ayins,
The young Kohanim?
Yeah. Where basically they were so makbid about Tuma that they used to have a race to do, to get to the Mizbeach, to be part of the Avoda. And they got a little bit violent sometimes, very aggressive, right? Very aggressive. And somebody stabbed another Kohen. One Kohen stabbed another Kohen. There's a Kohani. He stabbed him, right? And he's lying there. That's a pell unto itself, right? But he's lying there, right? And the Gemara says that his father came along and said, quick, take the knife out, because as long as he's still alive, the knife will become tummy. Right? As long as they'll save the knife, so it won't become tummy. They have to take it to the mikveh, the parduma, the whole thing.
Is his father?
It's his father, right? The Gemara says, here's an example of how extreme things can get, in terms of, trying to do the halacha, get so wrapped up in your world and your way of thinking, that you lose the whole value of life. The life becomes, all this was meant to enhance life, right? Instead, what happens basically is that we devalue, we put the cart before the horse, we put the tofu before the ikr in the end, to such an extreme that it just becomes totally ludicrous how Yiddish could actually start to look. This is the base of Mikdash. By Shedim, it's a base of Mikdash where these are Kohanim, right? The Avodas Hashem, and this is the father of the boy who got stabbed, and this is his response is to save the knife from becoming, it's a big process to retire the knife and all of that, but it doesn't make a difference. He's dying. Son's dying. That's to be the whole concern. Very extreme situation. So that's the lead-in. Even though what time is it?
It's 8:45.
Okay, we still got time. Right. That's really the lead into this week's parsha, because basically that last week's parsha was a sound and light show. Last week's parsha was fantastically dramatic. You have the giving of Torah, you got the Seres of Dibros, you got Klal for preparing themselves. It's a very dramatic part of the Chumash in terms of the effect it had on the Jewish people and the rest of the world, for that matter. This is a turning point in history. This is God coming down really for the first time and talking to a nation at Har Sinai. It's going to change the direction of history for the rest of time. And then immediately after that is followed up by Parshas Mishpatim. It's the one parsha. If there's any parsha that I would not have put after Parshas Yisro, it would probably be Parshas Mishpatim. Talk about Avadim off the bat, even though it's true, and Chazal pointed out that now you're free people, but once you're Avadim, don't forget the fact that you're once an Evid. So take care. Yeah, that comes later on. You can always put that in, just like the Amman and the Grusha and the Somi and all the different people who are the Levium. There's lots of places to talk about those things, and the whole halachas of Evid Kenani and Evid Shifchen, and the Mishpatim, technical halachas. Like boom, it's like putting a child in the cheder, right, and saying we're going to learn, become nice people, right? Open up your Mishnah Brewers, right? We're going to start learning Hilchas, SHMOS Boker in the end. And these are like 6-year-old kids. What? It's like this is going to be their enjoyable experience to encourage them to come into the world of Torah. You have to bring them in. What we do instead is we put honey on top of the little osios, for the pshen. Taste the honey in the letters. The Torah is sweet, and they go, and then Ganuz is fun, and we work our way up. Eventually, gets to the point where we can start introducing the real Torah into his life, and he can start learning it. But hopefully, by that point, he's got a kesher and he's got a love for learning and growth to some degree. To get Mishpatim into the picture immediately at this point in time, just thrown upon Klal Yisrael, is a major bring down. Yeah. Okay. Is such a word like that?
Is it chronological? Is it chronological? It doesn't have to be chronological.
It doesn't have to be chronological, and I don't know if it's chronological. It doesn't make a difference the way the Torah is presenting it. The Torah's chronology is based upon Musar, right? It's based upon Bimara. Right, that whatever we need to know at a specific time is because that's what follows that. In terms of instruction, this is how you have to learn it. And there's things to learn about in terms of chinuch too. The fact that Torah does that also indicates a certain aspect of chinuch. But the main point that Torah is making is exactly what we're talking about right over here. That the Nadav and Avihu is a perfect case in point. Nadav and Avihu basically is taking the Yisro, the Parsha's Yisro experience and going without Mishpatim after that. As they had tremendous drive, they had a cheshek to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to connect to Him on the ultimate level. But they're Gedarim, they're Gevuras, right? That's why this parsha also, it's unusual to put this in. It's almost like we're party to a conversation that, why are we hearing this type of a thing? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, go down, make a geder, fence the place off. Nobody comes up the mountain when the Shechina is over it. That part we should hear. That's part of the preparation. What follows after that, we don't need to hear, seemingly. Obviously we do, that's why the Torah puts it in there. But I would have thought we don't need to hear. What happens? Moshe says, don't worry about it, we took care of that already. It's all done. So Hashem says, go do it anyhow.
What are we referring to?
About making a fence around the mountain, the people can't climb up, and make sure it's all protected, they can't, otherwise they're going to die. But the fact that Moshe says it's all taken care of, that's what the conversation should have ended. Because Baruch says, go down anyhow. So Rashi says, from this you learn, there's you have to tell a person wants something, but also b'shas ma'isa, you have to repeat it because people forget things and they get all distracted and all that. But the Torah is telling you more than that. The Torah is telling you that the reality of Torah is such that it's easy to get taken in by it and lose yourself in it, and as a result of that, actually use the Torah to break the Torah, like Nadav and Avihu did. Even though what they did, it's a hard thing to understand because it's happening on the Chanukah Mishkan, Chanukah Mizbech, right? It's happening at the time that Klal Yisrael is at a height in terms of connecting to Kodesh Baruch Hu. The Shekhinah is coming down. What are they doing? Even if they drank a little bit, what are they doing? They're not trying to be mevazeh, mechalel, the Mizbech. On the contrary, they were so impacted by the moment and by the emotional surgeness, the whole experience filled every aspect of it. They were literally driven to do this as an act of kanos, as an act of zealousness. So why would they kill the end? Because that can't happen anymore. And from this point on, it's got to be channeled through the halacha, it's be channeled through the mishpatim. Because Baruch is saying that reality, and this is really what the point comes down to. The Torah doesn't speak this out, but Kabbalah does tremendously. It is very important why Mishpatim follows this week's Parsha. And really everything else that flows from that. We know that Moshe went up in Har Sinai, because Baruch Hu spoke to him, came down with the Luchos Rishonos. We know in Parsha Kisisa that he's going to come down, he's going to see the golden calf, because Baruch Hu told him what he's going to see when he first came down. He sees, he breaks the Luchos, he spends 40 more days up in Har Sinai begging for forgiveness. He gets the kapara, and he comes back down again, because Baruch Hu tells him this time, come back with your own tablets this time, right? He carves them out, goes back up again, because Baruch Hu writes on top, writes on them, and he comes back now with the second set of luchos, after Yom Kippur, right? The Tishrei comes back down, carrying the luchos. The 10th of Tishrei, they get the full tshuva, the full kapara, Yom Kippur, comes back down the luchos, and now we're going to go build a Mishkan, and history is going to go weiter. And it's a very subtle shift of history over here, from a Pshat point of view, but from a Kabbalistic point of view, it's extremely important, because the fact that the Kodesh Baruch Hu carved at the tablets the first time, and the fact that Moshe carved it the second time is extremely significant. Extremely significant. Each time a Kodesh Baruch Hu writes on top of them, which is quite a compliment, that Kodesh Baruch Hu would write on top of Moshe's tablets shows you the kedusha, the Moshe instilled within them, basically. But the fact that Moshe carved them out, versus the Kodesh Baruch Hu the first time made the luchos, was the difference between what we call luchos rishonos and luchos shnius, or the Torah's bria and Torah's atzilus. And the experience of Nadav and Avihu really belongs to Torah's atzilus, as opposed to, which is Torah's Mashiach, as opposed to Torah's Bria. What's the difference between Torah's Bria and Torah's Atzilus? Torah's Atzilus, which is, of course, why it's called that way, because there are 5 levels of reality, and we deal with the bottom 4 primarily. So it's Asiya, then Yitzira, then Bria, then Atzilus. Atzilus is a world that's completely Kaddish, completely Ruchani. There's no physicality as we understand on that level. And that's the level that the world will eventually get to in Moshe Mashiach, as our bodies become reincarnated to Chis HaMesim, not reincarnated, but actually resurrected, and they come back in Kesonos Or, like Adam was before the Chet, so now we're becoming more like souls and bodies, much higher level. And that Torah is not filled with all this dinning. There's no Mishpatim, as we understand. The mitzvahs will all be there, but in terms of their higher concepts, not in terms of there's going to be Avdus. There's going to be slaves in Yemos Mashiach. There's going to be slaves in Techis and Mesim. Absolutely not. Be slaves in Olam Haba. No. The concept behind the Avdus, the Avadim, and the halachas of Avdus, and the halachas of being an Adon, and the halachas of getting married, and the halachas of Shabbat, and these are all applications in the world in which we live right now. The halachas of Tefillin. You're not going to write Tefillin like you were today in Techis and Mesim. You'll achieve the Metzias, the reality of Tefillin, by simply connecting to reality, through your mind and through your being. We need intermediaries right now because we're so physical. We're so affected by Amalek, we're so, Gashmi, that without some kind of trigger device, we can't snap into the reality of Ruchnius. We need a minyan. We need a Beit Knesset. We need all these things. We need Kaddish and Chol. As Lashon points out, in Tchis HaMesim, there's no Chol anymore. It's just Kaddish and more Kaddish and more Kaddish, all Kaddish, and the whole point of Ma'aseh Bereshit, as it says on the Tzis of the Kohen Gadol, is Kodesh L'Hashem. But right now we don't have everything being Kaddish. We have Tumah, we have Chol, and we have Kadosh, and we have Tahar, things like that. They're different Madregas. So to pull you from one Madrega to another Madrega, you need devices. So therefore the mitzvahs that we have today are enclosed in certain physical realities to allow you to achieve that. But you won't need that in Moshe Mashiach, and you certainly won't need that Dichus and Mesi. So that's what's called Torah's Mashiach. That's the Torah in the Moshe Mashiach, and that was the Torah of the Luchos Rishonos that Moshe first came down with. If Moshe had been able to come down with those first set of tablets, as he went up to get, even though that doesn't happen to PARSHA Kisisa, that really answers the question I said before. That really PARSHA Kisisa belongs here, ahead of Mishpatim in the end, because that's where the Luchos actually break. That's where the transformation is taking place. But historically, chronologically, that's what happens first, and Mishpatim follows. Mishpatim, basically, she says, to bring down, Mishpatim is, okay, last week was Torah's Atzilus, Torah's Mashiach, you saw it, you experienced it. Moshe even came down with the first set of Luchos, so he knew he was going to break them. Normally, someone is doing Hagbah, and they start to get a little shaky, everybody runs to catch that Sefer Torah before it hits the ground, because who wants to fast for 40 days? They split it up, but who wants to, and plus the Bizoyim, then it's just, to take the Luchos, which is, it's not even Klaf, not even written by a sofer. It's like Luchos that were carved up by Kodesh Baruch Hu, were written on by Kodesh Baruch Hu. The Kiddush is unbelievable, and to throw those to the ground, according to most unfortunately, they just fell to the ground because the Yosef, once they left, they lost their miracle to be suspended in air, and Moshe had no choice but to let them fall to the ground. But he knew it was going to happen, right? Why did Moshe bring them down if he knew it was going to happen? It's a pretty kasha. So they had put it back in the Ark Kodesh on Har Sinai, and come down and tell him, you know what you could have had? You know what you could have had? But you lost it over here. You won't believe what I just saw back in Shemot. He wanted them to see the Luchos before he broke them, not to say, you see this, guys? Boom. That's what you lost out on, right? He wasn't being vindictive. He was basically saying, you see this? Put this on your heart because it's the last time you're going to see it until Mashiach comes. You won't see it again until Mashiach comes. Put it in your heart. Put in your natural vision. Absorb it because that's the end of it until Mashiach comes. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe 5,000 years from now. If there are 3,000 years from now, not 5,000, but 3,000, years from now, that's the next time it's going to come back. Not the Nevihu, when they did their Maisa, acting in the realm of Torah's Mashiach. What they wanted to do was what you could do before Har Sinai, and what you can do after Har Sinai, because everything is so kadosh. There's no such thing as incorrect kavanas. There's no such thing as any sigim or psolas mixed into it. There's no tuma mixed into. There's no improper meditations. Even a little bit. There's no self-involvement. It's totally for the sake of Kodesh Baruch Hu. And you won't need wine either, because you'll be so drunk on life itself, the kedusha of life, that this is what Moshe says. Moshe says they're greater than you and I. I knew that somebody was going to die when all this took place, but I thought it was you and me, because Baruch Hu said there was great ones. Now I see that they're greater than you and I. They just simply died right now, because Baruch Hu burned them up from the inside, and that's why he did, by the way. Why didn't the Baruch Hu simply burn them up from the outside? They did a terrible chet. When somebody does a chet, right? Skila, chenek, is where they put the hot lead inside. It's also the same idea. Why is it that they had to be burned up from the inside? Because basically, what they did, the physical aspect of it was there, no question about that. But it was a very ruchani thing they did, and that's what Moshe said. What they did, the reason why they're dying right now is to make a point, because they don't belong to this reality. And in fact, in Shar Gilgulim, that he brings down, none of Avihu, they are very, very short-lived in the Chumash, but in Kabbalah they are a thread that runs all through history. After they die, they go to Pinchas and make Pinchas possible to become Eliyahu eventually, right? After they did Pinchas, because Pinchas loses he loses the schus to have them inside of him when he does the whole episode with Yiftach and the whole thing with Mice with his daughter. Right, so he goes from there eventually to Shmuel HaNavi, and they become the source of prophecy for Shmuel HaNavi to become who he is in the end. And they go over here. Eventually, they come back to Pinchas again. But their thread, their neshamas are so kaddish that they're the source of nevuah. Anybody who gets them gets nevuah in the end, not Nevihu. So they were on a very high level, but they weren't part of this reality. What they did belonged to another time. And right now, in this stage of history, we don't care. It's like a teacher saying to a student, I know you know the Chomer. I know you're a genius. But I still have to punish you. Why? Because this is not the way I'm running my class right now. If I let you get away with these things right now, even though for you it's perfectly okay, the rest of the nation is not going to get the message, and they're not holding the same level. They had to be the karbanis to make the point that right now we have Torah's Bria, not Torah's Silas, not Torah's Mashiach, with Torah's Lamazeh. So therefore, Mishpatim follows immediately after to make that point. All these halachas we have in Mishpatim, these nitty-gritty technical halachas, are to really remind us what we once had and we lost, but where we're holding right now. And now everything has to flow to the framework of the Gedarim of Torah. That's why Kosh Baruch Hu makes this point also by the whole thing about putting the fence around the mountain and stopping the people from going up, even though Moshe said we prepared. We've already done that. We've done that. We already made point of it by telling people you'll be chayiv misa if you climb the mountain while the Shekhinah is on the mountain. You can't do that. So Kosh Baruch Hu says go back down again and make sure it doesn't happen anyhow. Why? Well, if they're already aware of this. So Rashi says later on. Rashi says he says look at the power of Chet. Look at how Chet works. Moshe comes down with the Karnei Hod. He's emanating light because the Kosh Baruch was past him when he was in the cleft of the rock, and he's giving off this light. And Klal Yisrael won't look at him. We don't want to see you. Put a mask over yourself, right? We don't want to see this light. It's freaking us out. So Rashi says, look at the power of Chet. Before the Chet of the Egel Zahav, Kosh Baruch had to tell Moshe twice to go make sure they don't climb the mountain. Why wasn't once one good enough? Because the people were prepared, the Moshe Nefesh, they're prepared to risk death to be able to see the Shekhinah, to see it, to experience it. They didn't mind dying. Just to have a glimpse of the Shekhinah, that's how it was like beast out, they were driven towards it. Now, because of the Chet, they can't even look at Moshe Rabbeinu, who just has Karnei Hod coming out from the end. That's the power of Chet. So what does that mean, basically? It means that really, at that moment in time, they were drinking from Torah's Silas. The whole experience, they were drinking from Torah's Mashiach. Because Baruch Hu knew the experience wasn't going to last. They had to have a taste of it to experience it, but they weren't yet holding that level because it was given to them. They had not worked for it. For 50 days, the Kodesh Baruch Hu elevated them. He gave them all kinds of experiences of Torah and mitzvahs and Nisi and Neflois and Giluim. And as David Malk points out, we still didn't believe. It still wasn't in our heart yet. We weren't real with it. So Kodesh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu that you had to go down and make this point because as much as they'd like to believe they're ready for this, they're not really ready for this yet. It's still premature. It's still not the level they're holding on, and therefore when they'll be more vulnerable to fall as a result of it. So therefore there was an initial experience of it to some degree, but not a full experience of it. And the PARSHA Mishpatim falls immediately after to make the point that this is the Torah we're living with right now, which actually is a flip side of another answer to another question. And that is, why doesn't the Torah mention, Yom HaMashiach and Techis HaMeisim and Olam Haba? Yeah.
I just thought something that always bothered me. This question always bothered me. You had the as a result of the Chet, the eagle, right? What happened was that we had the Mishkan developed, right? And the Mishkan was developed, and this is when the Mishkan was first inaugurated. This is when Nadav and Abihu did the Maisa. It was on the inauguration of the Mishkan, right?
Yeah.
Now, they went into the Mishkan. They died inside, correct? They theoretically should have made the Mishkan Tomei. But we don't see anything about making the Mishkan Metaher. Why?
Well, actually, I think they die outside the mission. The fire comes out from the parochos.
They were pulled out. They were
inside. They were pulled out.
Yeah, they were in the Mishkan, and they died. And since they died inside, it's an ohel.
Right.
They should have Batame the entire Mishkan. Okay.
I was
so I've asked this question to many people, and they say it's a wonderful
because
question.
their cousins. What's the name? Michelle and what's the name? They're the ones who are Tamei, Mace, right. And they can't bring the Korban Pesach because of this the burial.
They pulled them out.
They pulled them out. So the question would be why why not?
I think you answered my question.
Yeah, great.
You just answered my question.
Fantastic.
I'll tell you how you answered it.
Okay.
You know how you answered it? because essentially, if they were on the level of Torah's Atzilus,
Uh-huh. Interesting. Let me check it out. But that would be more of a...
that would be what. That, in other words, if they were on that level,
Mhm.
okay, then there wouldn't have been any Tumah to begin with.
Right, but then why did everyone else become tummy as a result of them?
Because now,
Oh, you mean after you get pulled out?
Exactly. In other words, what happens exactly, what you have to do, don't forget, they created the demarcation line, okay?
Mhm, mhm.
They were on the other side of the line. But now Kodesh Baruch Hu, as a result of what you're saying now, there comes a watershed now. No longer are we on the Luchos Rishonos, we're on the Luchos Shnios right now, okay? So this is where the line occurs where we're no longer on Torah Atzilus, we now become on Torah's Brius.
Yeah.
You're
Let me check it out. It's a good point, a very important point. I always thought they were outside, but if they're inside, it's a question, yeah.
Well, the thing is, you see that in a few places where they, I can't remember where that was, where I think it was in Shemot, where the Arna Kodesh, they thought it was going to fall, and they grabbed onto it,
Yeah.
and they were killed on the spot. So they wouldn't, they didn't Matame.
Yeah, but that wasn't an
Yeah,
Ohel.
they were inside.
The problem is an Ohel.
That
It was
was
outside. They wouldn't.
They were going down the road here in Moses.
No, but they were holding on to the stage.
Uzzah held on to it for 1 second, and he died as a result of it. Could be he died as he let go of it. You know, so.
But also by Sheni, if the coin wasn't royalty, right? They used to have a rope around it.
Right.
And if he would die, they would pull him out.
But the poem also true. That's also true.
So I don't know. I don't know why it wasn't Matame.
It's also true. It could be there's a big. No, it's a good. Let me just think of the halachas because there are halachas knew about that was the base of mikdash. No, I mean there's a whole halacha about no because the tumah does exist because, for example, there's a sheretz the base of mikdash. What's better to do is better to take it out immediately, become tamei, but say the base of mikdash become tamei, or to use a kli, which there's a whole so the tumah should be there.
I thought of another question to another reason. I mean, this is one. In answer to what this answers to his question also. In other words, when you're inside the Kodesh Kadoshim, okay, there's no sense of space. In other words, a Kodesh Baruch Hu is mitzamtzein. He's only making.
You're right.
Yeah. So the fact remains that the space that's in there really doesn't exist.
That could be terms of the Kodesh Kodesh, but he had to be dragged into through the base of Mikdash. So he had at some point in time there was an Ohel inside there. There might be a very simple answer to this question. Let me just check it out. I don't know offhand, but just to finish this point, that this is really also the reason why, and which the Meforshim, many Rishonim basically have dealt with the question, why it is that the Moshe Mashiach is not mentioned anywhere in the Torah. It's just maybe allude to Techis and Masons allude to, as the Gemara brings out. But these are such important inyanim. Yiddishkeit is built upon these things. They're so strong that it's like college basically offering it a course, but never telling you what degree you get, if you get a degree in the end. It's like left to your imagination. So who's going to take the course? So the Lashem explains that's exactly the point. That really the truth is, had it been Torah's Mashiach as it's supposed to be, then that's all it would talk about. That's all it would matter. Is in Moshe Mashiach. And Techis HaMesim, and Olam Haba, all the things coming up from this point onward. But once the Luchos Rishonos were broken, the Lashem explains, and the Torah that we got with Luchos Shnios, so now we're living in a world of Olam Hazeh, of cause and effect, and din, dinim, and all these things that go along with with serving Kodesh Baruch Hu properly. That you have to do this, you get the good. You don't do this, you get the bad at the end. So now the Torah is only concerned with the everyday activities of Klal Yisrael, in which case it's only dealing on the level of din, and the Moshe Mashiach and Techis HaMesim, these are all beyond the Torah we have right now. It's alluded to, obviously, because the Torah is Pshat and Jewish Sod. It's all there, right? But on an everyday level of learning it, Kodesh Baruch Hu is saying that you focus on the din. That's what concerns you right now. To get you through Olam Hazeh, to be able to battle against Amalek, to battle against the doubt, to battle against the Tumah, to get this world back in shape again, to get to Moshe Mashiach, you're going to have to focus on the dinim. That's your reality. And also another way of saying, look what you lost. You don't like it? Well, this is the reality of what happens when you build an Egel Zahav. Work on tikkun, work on getting back to where you're supposed to get to, back to, to be rui for Yemos Mashiach, and then you get the Luchos Rishonos, the Torah of Mashiach back again, once again, in which case we'll talk about all the things that we've been yearning for the last couple of thousands of years. And that's why Mishpatim follows specifically Parshas Yisro.